What's the creepiest thing you've ever experienced when you've been alone? I saw a gray fox at night once and it really creeped me out. I can't quite explain why, because I like animals and I particularly like dogs and their relatives, but something about the fox's face and the way he moved made me feel like I was seeing a ghost. I got chills from it. Foxes in most cultures are seen as mischievous and sly, and in a lot of cultures, foxes are known for shapeshifting too. My favorite legend must be the Fox's Wedding. It's a Japanese folklore tale which is about how foxes shapeshift into beautiful women to seduce men and then marry them. On the night of their wedding they eat their husband's liver. If a fox eats 10 livers it can fully become human. Thought I'd share to add to the creepy vibe, haha. I was at the hospital visiting a friend for a few hours and then decided to go home. As I was walking to the train station I didn't seem to notice anyone. I was alone at night on an empty street with no one in sight. I came across a traffic light and decided to wait, although no one was even driving at the time, so I don't even know why I didn't just walk to the other side real quick. Anyways, I was too distracted by my phone when I suddenly got this gut feeling to look left. There was a man walking towards me and naturally I didn't think anything of it. The man was now standing a few feet from me and I could visibly see him. He was wearing ripped dirty clothes and had greasy long hair. What creeped me the most was his smile. He was looking at me constantly with that creepy smile, and then he started talking to me in a different language. I didn't know what to do or say, so I just stood there. The man then got angry and started yelling. Now I was really creeped out and started walking to the train station. I looked behind me and the man was running at me with a piece of glass, and then I too started running. Luckily a train was stopping, so I quickly hooped in. The man was for some reason not trying to come in and stood in front of the doors and looked at me with the same creepy smile. I was relieved and petrified, and that was that. I appreciate everyone who read this. I was about 11 years old, was startled awake for no discernible reason. Just woke up feeling very on edge with a racing heart. I know this sounds nuts, but I looked over near my doorway and saw an actual alien standing there. It was the stereotypical tall, slim gray alien with huge dark eyes. Naturally my entire body froze in fear and I stared right at it for what probably was only 5 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. I knew I wanted out of that room, but to leave I would have to run past the alien, which I did. I went into my mom's bed. I remember a blindingly bright light was streaming in through her window blinds, but I was too scared to look out and see what it was. The window faced towards our backyard, so it couldn't have been car headlights. Eventually I fell asleep and woke up in my mom's bed, so at the very least I know I did change locations in the night. Definitely the creepiest thing that's happened to me, alone or otherwise. I was happy to have the house to myself for maybe an hour. On one of my trips to the kitchen, when walking back to my bedroom, I saw a black doll on my mother's bed. We do not have dolls in this house, and this one was just materialized on her bed. It did not look particularly creepy, but you know, where the F did that come from? I did not investigate further. I just made a cross sign and turned the corner to enter my bedroom. I asked on our Voodoo about this and apparently voodoo dolls are only used for evil in movies. I do not know what to make of this. I've seen countless spirits ghosts at many buildings I've worked at. When I went to Stanford University Hospital emergency room I was there for about 4 hours in a bed and I saw a handful of spirits moving around. I told my nurse about it and she said in a stern voice, I don't want to talk about this right now. I can walk into many buildings I've never been in and if I'm not truly alone my spidey sense kicks on within a couple minutes. I've seen ghosts from a distance too. The building I'm at as I type this has a curious beard. It's a 1-year-old building, built on property where there was a hazmat spill a few years back. I'm wondering if anyone died during the spill accident. It was night and I had to take a crap. I ran to the bathroom, but I felt the whole room having a weird vibe and it was cold af being winter and the heater was on. So I went to the bathroom. I didn't close the door because I had to take this massive shit. 3 minutes and I was on my phone minding my business until I get a vibe that someone was watching me. From my peripheral vision I swear to God I saw something run across the other room. I thought it was something else, but I looked at the door again and saw a shadow moving. I wiped, closed and locked the door and laid my ass to sleep in the tub with the lights on. I got more scared when I woke up from a loud banging noise, but it was my dad needing to pee. Many instances, but one I remember vividly is I was home alone. I was around 16 and I was dead asleep on my bunk bed with my arm above my head. I had a bunk bed that was a bed on top and a desk and shelves underneath. I felt something with a very cold hand grab my wrist and pull. I almost shat myself. I shot up, almost fell off my bed and started panic crying. Took me about 10 minutes to get off my bed to check things out. I knew there was nobody there because I saw and felt a lot in the house I was in at that time. That house was dodgy. Thankfully I only lived there for about 2 years. Me and my mom saw someone or something watching us sleep. I was about 5 or 6 years old and my mom was putting me to sleep. I fell asleep and when I woke up in the middle of the night I saw a dark figure like a man standing in front of the window. I woke my mom up almost about to cry and I was hoping it was just a tree or something because we were on the second floor of the house. But when she woke up she also saw what happened and told me to stay put and don't move. She quickly ran to the living room because we had guests over and everyone was still up drinking. She told everyone what happened and for 3 hours everyone went out and searched around the house. What I didn't tell her was that when she left the window started to rattle as if someone was trying to open it. I was scared and never slept on my own in that room until I was 8. Once I was up late on my phone in my bed watching YouTube until I accidentally dropped my phone down the side of my bed. When I went to pick it up I heard a sort of distorted voice saying get back into bed now. Was it from the video? I just need more info on this lol. Honestly, I don't know what it was from, I'm pretty sure it wasn't the video because the sound came from a few meters away. This is probably going to get lost down in the comments section, but here is my story. Not my house but my great-grandmother's house, about 2 years after she died. This was in rural Pennsylvania, and as such, no one really came though, which I guess is why no one was too worried about leaving a 12-year-old home by himself in a place he wasn't familiar with. Anyway, I woke up from a nap to find everyone gone. There was a note in the kitchen which explained they had gone into town to go see a play or something, and that if I needed anything to call them. Well, for the first 20 minutes everything was great, but then it started to storm. A really bad thunderstorm hit and the power went out. The phone was also out because it was a landline and we had no power. I'm scared shitless, but somehow managed to find and light candles around the house. Already on edge, I start hearing noises coming from the cellar. I do not know what possessed me to do this, but I decided to go check out the noises. Well, it turns out there was a black snake infestation in the cellar, which no one knew about since hardly anyone went to the cellar anymore after my great-grandmother died. Well, after seeing about 5 snakes right at the bottom of the steps slithering around, I lost my will to explore the rest of the cellar and ran back upstairs screaming. I slammed shut the cellar door and ran to hide in the bedroom under the bed. After what felt like hours, although was in reality only about 5 minutes later, I heard a knock on the back door. I thought I was about to be killed by some serial killer or monster, but the knock kept coming. Suddenly, as I'm going to sneak a peek as to who is at the door, I hear the door unlock and someone walk in. I'm about to run screaming when suddenly I hear a man's voice calling my name. Turns out it was the neighbor who helped my great-grandmother out a lot and he had come over to check on me after my parents had called and told him they couldn't get a hold of me. Turns out the house wasn't possessed and the snakes had apparently been there for years. That is still the most scared I have ever been. This happened a few years ago. It was about 9 p.m. and I was returning from practice. I would say I'm a pretty paranoid guy and usually overthink stuff. As I was walking down the road I had this terrible gut feeling, like my heart dropped out. I immediately felt like I should look behind me. I turned around and saw a man pretty muscular, around his middle 30s, staring at me. I froze and suddenly the same gut feeling returned. I don't know why, but I had that urge to scream. The guy actually took off running, probably because he thought I was calling for help. When I got home I told my parents I was 14 at the time and we called the police. A few days later a police officer knocks on our door and starts asking me questions. He had a picture of the guy from that night. I could tell it was him due to him being bald and from his muscular body. It turns out they had already caught the guy and just wanted to confirm if it was him. I later find out this guy has been guilty for murder, molestation, etc. He was also carrying a knife the night I saw him. Really messed up guy. First house and my now ex-husband and I were slowly renovating, room by room. Parents always keen-eyed and nosy about what we decided to do and would always visit once I was willing to show the room off. Dad was especially nosy, he would go through your mail just to see what was there. No harm was meant and he never gossiped. I was at home and my ex-husband was working a late shift. My dad had died a few months earlier and never got to see the bathroom and laundry renovation we had done. I was sitting watching TV. From where I was, I could see into the hall and the bathroom and laundry doorways. Was just relaxed watching TV when out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. Fully focused, I watched a large dark gray see-through cloud move. It wafted from the top of the closed laundry door, pause, and then move down to about waist height and go into the bathroom. I guess Dad really wanted to check up on the Reno. I grew up with a little under 300 acres of woods behind my house. I spent a lot of time alone out there. One night while cutting through I was followed. Now understand these woods were mine. All of my life night and day I roamed them. I knew every animal type, how to recognize and catch each. I would sneak out at night running around barefoot with a spear or knife. Whatever followed me stayed just out of my eyesight. And at some point it made a noise that sounded somewhere between a baby crying and a cat noise. It's not like anything I've ever heard. I left that night thinking fox, but I have more than once tried researching the sound. I won't ever forget it. It's not the only time we've heard it. Whatever it was would come around the house sometimes early in the AM, like 3 to 5 AM. My dad talked about it years later. He never confirmed it when I was younger as he knew I'd try to hunt it. That being said, whatever it was intelligent and knew how to keep out of view. And as far as I know, that story being 30 years old, that thing still wanders the area. So, I have several experiences, but I want to preface this with, I'm not one of those ghost-chasing believers or anything. I don't believe in ghosts or anything paranormal. With that said, when I was around 12 to 15, I can't really date it better, other than I had a weight bench, so I know I wasn't younger. I was in my bedroom. It was late and the lights were off. I can't remember if I had woken up or if I was just kind of laying there. Anyways, I happened to open my eyes, and leaning against the end of my weight bench was this shadowy figure. It had no features, but it had a human shape and basically looked like shadow and purple stars, not the elementary school 5-point stars like looking at the night sky stars, only they were purple. I didn't know what I was looking at, but it waved at me. I don't remember anything else. I was in Nacogdoches, Texas going to school. Roughly near the SFA campuses was a Taco Bell. Anyways, I walked there for food one evening. I sat, I ate, nothing out of the ordinary. When I was done, I started walking back. Well, along the way, eventually you have to cross this super busy street. The particular crosswalk I decided to cross at, where the pedestrian stand is sort of hidden from drivers by the controller box for the traffic lights. So, I'm standing there, waiting for the light to change so I can cross the street. The light eventually changes, and I go to cross the street. Out of nowhere, and mid-stride, a voice says, "Why don't we just wait a second?" So, I stop, and literally the second I would have stepped into the street, a dude ran the red light at full speed. It would have killed me horrifically, but a voice from nowhere saved my life. Those are two that come to mind immediately because they were so profound to me. I have others that they get mocked when I talk about them. I've heard a voice in a similar situation once. After school one day I was about to cross a road to go home. It was just the other side of the road, in front of me, but that road is known for idiots always speeding and going 20 full miles over the speed limit. Well, I checked both sides before I started running to cross it, and when I was in the middle of the road, I heard someone call my name from behind me, which, for some reason, made me stop, and at that very moment a white car sped past me exactly where I would have been. I was petrified and looked behind me, but there was no sign of human activity. When I arrived home I told my mom, but that was pretty much the end of it. I should maybe say that the voices seemed faint, as if the person was far behind me, and it sounded like my mom's voice, who, as I said, was in the house. That experience still stick with me 3-4 years later. Like, comment and subscribe for more interesting stories.